Hello, Danielle. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
I think we can't turn on our videos. Do you want to check, please? It says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. The vice chair can't turn on her video as well. Could you please check?
Yeah, let me talk to the host 1 second.
Thank you.
Rose, I also see Meropi and Moa, they are on the attendees list. They need to be brought into the panelist.
Sorry for these technical difficulties. I hope that you can see me and hear me well now. Welcome everyone to the third and last day of the advisory board meeting. And to start our meeting off today, we would like to invite Ms. Juliet Meredith to provide remarks to the board. And Juliet represents the British government and is the head of the UNFCCC Technology, Capacity Building and Transparency of Support negotiations for COP26. And we have asked Juliet to provide an update on plans regarding the climate negotiations. So Juliet, you're very welcome and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Moa. Can you hear and see me okay?
Yes, very well.
Great, brilliant. I've got, I think, 20 minutes, but I will try to keep it a little bit shorter than that because I know that you've got a lot to get through today on your final day. But firstly, thank you. Firstly, for letting me listen to the valuable conversations that you've been having at this advisory board meeting, which you always do. I've attended a few. But it's been so interesting, obviously, to hear the updates on the work of the CTCN, but also, for example, the ideas of collaboration with the Adaptation Committee, SCF, and Financial Mechanism. But I'd also like to congratulate the CTCN on making progress despite what challenging times that we're in, and also the advisory board members and other participants for all your useful contributions. I also just wanted to say thank you for inviting me to say a few words on behalf of the incoming presidency. Needless to say, it's been a challenging year for everybody, but we know that the work on climate must continue. And I really want to emphasize to you the incoming presidency's determination to drive action and ambition. And that's across mitigation, adaptation, and means of implementation of support. Our aim is to leave no issue behind as we work towards a successful, ambitious, and inclusive COP26. In this context, we've committed to driving action and ambition, and that is through national actions, through our presidency campaigns, through the work of our high-level champion, and in the negotiations, as Moa mentioned. And given the importance of technology in all of this, we've deliberately integrated it throughout our presidency approach. And I said that I would come today to talk a little bit about some examples of how we're doing that. I just wanted to say I do plan to go into a little bit of a detail because I thought that would be of most interest to you all. So please do bear with me, but I do plan to touch on the wider presidency approach as well as the negotiations to share with you how we're doing that. So firstly, I wanted to talk a little bit about our 5 campaigns, all of which aim to have an impact on climate technologies. Firstly, we've got our campaign on the energy transition. This is because in order to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement, the global transition to clean power needs to progress about 4 to 6 times faster than it is at present. We therefore want to bring together countries, development banks, investors, and civil societies so that they can work together to take action. This is because if we work together, we can enable all countries to make the transition cheaper at an earlier and faster and get there at an earlier date. Some examples of the way in which we're doing that is aiming to ensure that all countries can access clean power investment and assistance that's more attractive than coal, and that we are also aiming to drive finance and technical assistance to enable scaled up renewable energy in developing countries. Then we've got our zero emission vehicle campaign. And this is because global emissions from road transport are rising faster than any other sector. And road transport accounts for about 10% of global emissions. This campaign aims to support and drive the development and transition to zero emission vehicles technologies globally, including by creating favorable market conditions. To achieve this, we're encouraging countries to move together, again, similarly to reduce costs and make the transition easier and faster for everybody. To deliver, we're working with a number of partners, including governments to consider different policies and regulations, cities to progress local action, businesses, and that's both on the supply and the demand side, and investors to sign up to various commitments. Civil society to create and utilize networks to support those transition. And finally, technical experts and academics to help provide an evidence base to support all of that government and wider action. Then we've got our adaptation and resilience campaign, and this has been chosen obviously because we know that even if emissions stop rising today, the world would still need to deal with significant climate disruption, because impacts are already being felt, particularly by the most vulnerable. And the aim of this is to encourage greater political ambition, to encourage the development and sharing of tools, encourage finance and coordination of support, to enable practical action on adaptation, resilience and loss and damage. We're aiming to do this by turning the UNCAS Call for Action and Adaptation and Resilience Pledge into action on the ground, and by increasing the availability and accessibility of adaptation and resilience finance. We're doing this by working also with the parties in the run-up to COP26 to encourage those to come forward with ambitious adaptation plans, and for those that already have to start working towards implementing them. So on that campaign, we're working with governments, businesses, civil society and academia. Then we've got our nature campaign, and we've got a few aims within that nature campaign. One is to raise ambition on tackling both biodiversity and climate issues together. And that's through working with governments, businesses and civil society to set ambitious targets. Also to scale up to scale up financial support for nature and nature-based solutions, and also to tackle the drivers of nature degradation and biodiversity loss. And that's particularly in relation to deforestation, agriculture and land use change. There's a whole host of ways in which we're seeking to deliver that. It's a very complex area, but some particular examples are by building a new dialogue to bring together major producer and consumer countries of forest risk commodities to agree collaborative actions to reduce the impact of agriculture and invest in sustainable production and build new markets for sustainably grown produce. Also by supporting a just rural transition, by bringing together efforts to shape policies and innovation and investment to transition to sustainable and resilient agriculture, and by working with countries to transform agricultural innovation systems by mobilizing new investments and partnerships to support and scale up the development of climate resilient and low carbon technologies and practices. We're also bringing together various participants and actors to showcase solutions that have already been developed, for example, by farmers and innovative business models and new public-private partnerships to help deploy that technology at scale. And then our fifth campaign is the finance campaign, and that underpins all of our campaigns and wider action. And our aims there is to work with donor countries to secure more predictable commitments. We will, of course, begin the negotiations on the successor to the 100 billion goal. And we're working to ensure that every professional financial decision takes climate change into account, to catalyse the mobilisation of greater volumes of global financial flows. To do that, we're working with a whole host of people from the financial services sectors, international financial institutions, central banks, regulators, and finance ministry to unlock rapid action at scale. And we're doing that because we know that we need to green the entire financial system to align finance flows to move those billions into trillions. And something I particularly wanted to touch on was the fact that we've, as it's so relevant to technology, is that we've got a discrete focus on innovation to support our campaigns. And that focus aims to accelerate the pace of innovation and is made up of two main objectives. One is strengthening Mission Innovation 2.0 to increase investment and impact of clean technology research, development and demonstration. We are supporting the second phase of Mission Innovation, which is built around a strengthened innovation platform and through new public-private innovation missions to develop net zero energy solutions. And the second is by creating demand coalitions, and that's particularly supporting and strengthening some of those leading global coalitions that are accelerating demand to net zero technologies across all sectors. Then secondly, having talked a little bit about the campaigns, I just wanted to touch on some of our work, the work of our high-level champion, Nigel Topping, and obviously also of Gonzalo, the Chilean high-level champion. Obviously, the Race to Zero has been launched, and the outcome of that will support the promotion of climate technologies. And I'm sure you all are, but for those who aren't familiar, the Race to Zero is a global campaign to rally leadership and support, and it's focusing on the role of business, cities, regions, and investors to promote a healthy, resilient, zero carbon recovery. All members of that Race to Zero are committed to an overarching goal of achieving net zero by 2050 at the very latest. And all those members, which create the largest ever alliance on net zero, must do a few things, including pledge commitments, create a plan to meet those commitments, take immediate action on those plans, and publish their progress. Then, particularly relevant at the moment, part of that Race to Zero, we've got the Race to Zero dialogues, and they're taking place this week and next week. And that's a whole series of virtual events and discussions that are based around thematic days to share and promote how entire sectors are transitioning to net zero. Then finally, I just want to talk a little bit about our approach to the negotiations. The UK is committed to unleashing the full potential of the Paris Agreement by facilitating the outstanding agreement of the outstanding elements of the rulebook as part of a comprehensive negotiated outcome that drives ambition. And as I said, that's ambition on mitigation, adaptation, and support, which leaves no issue behind. We're committed to enabling progress across all the mandates that we've given. And whilst COVID has clearly had a really significant impact on the UNFCCC process, we're so pleased that the COP Bureau agreed that the postponement of COP26 cannot mean the postponement of climate action, and it set out aims to maximise progress whilst minimising disruption. So as the incoming presidency, the UK, together with the COP25 presidency Chile, the UNFCCC SB chairs and the UNFCCC Secretariat, are now working with all groups and parties to put that into practice, to essentially aim to have caught up with where we're meant to be by the end of 2021. I'm emphasising this because, of course, for technology, as is always the case, the agenda's a busy one, so this is really important. And this year we've seen momentum, which has been great from so many, from the SIDS Placencia Ambition Forum at the start of the year, the UNFCCC June Momentum, various commitments and drive for momentum through UNGA and New York Climate Week, and many more. I'm not going to list them all, but also particularly for the remainder of this year, I wanted to emphasise the UNFCCC Climate Dialogues and the 2020 Climate Ambition Summit, which are two opportunities to make more progress this year. Just to emphasise for those that aren't as close to it, at the summit, we're really encouraging all countries to bring forward their highest possible ambition, and that's on NDCs, long-term strategies, adaptation and finance commitments, but also for civil society to make significant commitments. Our aim is that this should be a key moment to drive ambition. And then finally, just to talk a little bit more about the negotiations looking into 2021, the UK is really committed to convening parties and stakeholders at all levels to accelerate progress ahead of COP26. So I've really sort of tried to emphasise what we see as being the real importance of continuing momentum and progress, and that's particularly why the hard work of the CTCN in these difficult times and the continued work of the advisory board in virtual format is so valued. So thank you again, and for your useful discussions and letting me say a few words. If you'd like to talk about this in any more detail with me, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. I know I've said a lot and there's more detail that I could share in slower time. So yes, thank you again. And I wish you a really successful final day of your meeting.
Thank you very much for those words, Juliet. Thank you a lot for joining us today. I would now like to hand over to Ping for our continued discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Moa. Can you hear me right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I also thank Ms. Juliet Meredith for her introduction and also briefing of the coming presidency of COP26 in its plans moving forward based on the momentum we already have. And since we, as agreed yesterday, we will continue our discussion regarding the document we're going to approve for today. And between yesterday and today, the CTCN Secretariat has been working very hard in combining all the comments from the advisory board members and also provided a updated version of the two documents, the joint annual report of CTCN section to the COP, and also the annual operational plan. The document has been emailed to all board members about an hour ago, and I hope everyone had a chance to review the document. And I would like to also to invite the secretary to give us briefly on what have been updated in this new revised version of the two documents. Rose, or someone from the secretary can briefing us of the updates of revisions in the two documents.
Thank you very much, Ping. To provide just a general context of what we've done between last evening and through the night when we're receiving comments, we received some of the last comments only 15 minutes ago, is to integrate all the comments in both the CTCN report to the COP and also the annual operating plan for 2021. As you saw in the covering note to the email, where the documents were attached, we highlighted a few general issues that were raised by the advisory board members yesterday. I don't know if the chairs want to speak to those issues, but generally to say that we've responded to every single comment that has been provided by the advisory board members, and that we do have an annotated list of each of those comments and the responses separate from the main documents themselves that we have kept in order to track all the comments that are coming in from the advisory board members. Ping, I thought you would provide the general background to the context we discussed on the
Okay.
for the documents, please.
Okay. As just been briefed by Rose, the secretary already tried to combine all the comments into the new version, but for some of the comments, it seems not feasible, and the secretary also provide some additional information and explanation on why it's not feasible. And in the email, you will see two sets of documents, and two documents are clean ones and two with tracking mode. And I think I will just very briefly mention the ones I comprehend from my discussion with the chair, with my co-chair, and also the CTCN secretary. Regarding to the CTCN report to the COP, since there's a limit of the total words of the report, and the existing report already exceed the limits given by the COP, so the current revision include those essential additions and the information which cared by some of the advisory board members. And the CTCN secretary suggests to enclose all other information into another report, the CTCN report on the 2020 AOP, another report which will be present to the AB in next spring in AB 17, and to keep the current the JAR report in accordance with the requirement from the COP. And also regarding the 2021 annual operating plan, the secretary wants to provide some additional information regarding the RD&D activities, as some of the advisory board member mentioned yesterday. The RD&D is a mandate given by the COP from its Paris Agreement, and also as guidance from the technology framework in the case theme of innovation, and also is agreed by the advisory board at the 13th advisory board meeting, and which included in the program of work of CTCN for 2019 to 2022. So with that, the chairs, me and Moa, and also the CTCN secretary, we suggest we keep the activities for the RD&D in this AOP document. And also, we want to just show some of the example of such type of activities, never intended to providing funding to any party to carry out RD&D activities, but rather to serve as facilitating the collaboration and knowledge sharing among parties, in regards to jointly initiating RD&D projects, and also to support some parties to enable their national innovation system and provide good practice in some other countries as additional information and tools. I think just to facilitating would not intend to provide any direct funding on the R&D activity itself. So with that being said, I would ask my co-chair Moa, and also the CTCN secretary, if there's any additional background information or information in general you want to share with the board. Moa, do you have any additional information to share at this moment?
Thank you, Ping. I think you covered the main points. So I think we should go on to look at the revised versions and take any further comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Moa. Rose, is there anything to add from your perspective?
No, I think you covered everything. So we are ready to receive feedback from the members at this point.
Okay, thank you. So with that being said, I now open the floor to the advisory board members for any additional comments and suggestions regarding the revised version of the CTCN report to the COP and also the AOP project, the AOP report. Meropi, I see you raise your hand. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. With this clarification on R&D and demonstration, it is fine with me. I have provided specific language in my comments in written. You can take into account some suggestions, language suggestions I made. And in my accounts for I put clearly that the cost of research and infrastructure is not, I mean, these activities, whatever CTCN will be doing, the collaboration, does not cover neither the budget, the cost of the research itself, and the infrastructure needed. Having said that, I would like to add some suggestions to the CTCN. First of all, for all activities, from our perspective, for all activities of the CTCN, we give from EU priority to support and help African LDCs and seeds. The second suggestion I would like to do is that in the activities regarding the research and building partnerships for research and innovation projects, the CTCN to observe the calls of the Horizon Europe, the research framework for EU-supported research, that they will start, their implementation will start from 2021. It is a massive project. It is open to collaboration with the other countries. And African LDCs and are eligible also for funding. There are participation criteria that does not allow some developing countries, especially from BRICS, to participate, to get funding from EU, but there are, the African LDCs can have support from the Horizon Europe. So I invite the CTCN Secretariat to very often observe what it is in the participants portal of EU Horizon program, and I will send it to the Secretariat, and you can configure to get newsletters when there are open calls, so to consult them and to help the entities, your stakeholders, to collaborate by planning such a response to calls.
Okay, thank you, Meropi. Thank you for sharing this additional information regarding the openness of the EU Horizon program that opens to some of the developing countries to participate, and also thanks for sharing the information regarding the EU's priority in a term of technology cooperation. And I see a raising hand from Orly. Orly, please, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, I do have a slight concern to raise. The documents, and I understand the Secretariat had very little time to turn around new versions, but unfortunately, the documents coming so soon before the meeting, and I'm on a different time zone than many of you, so having checked at 6 a.m. our time here, not having seen anything, I wasn't able to then recheck constantly and then find that they arrived 30 minutes later. And I have had no time to review the documents at all. So I'm a little bit concerned at that. And then hearing that more revisions were made 15 minutes ago, I just want to put it to the group on how we can go forward with comments now to give some of us who haven't had a chance to review a chance to review. Happy to hear any other views on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Orly. Thanks for raising the concern. I believe maybe some of the advisory board members also have the same situation as you do. But please use the time now to review the document. As from my perspective, the secretary already incorporated most of the comments and suggestions made earlier by the advisory board. So if anyone or if you have any additional comments, I think we can use the time now to review it and to raise it and to also to agree on a path forward.
Thank you, Ping. I'm just wondering if it's possible to take a short little break because it's hard to review the documents while listening to colleagues' comments at the same time. I know that we don't have a lot of time, so I would leave that to your judgment and the Secretariat's judgment, whether that's even possible.
Orly, thanks for the suggestion. So how, if we're gonna take a break, how much time do you think you need?
Well, it's not just about me. I'm curious to hear if other colleagues need some time as well, but I would be happy even with the 15 minutes to just take a look at everything.
Okay, thank you. Okay, in that case, I suggest we take a break for 15 minutes. So we come back at 2:52 CET time. Will that be okay? I think everybody can keep online and just we have a virtual break. Will that be agreeable to everyone? Okay, I see some nodding from the chat. Okay, we will take a break for 15 minutes and then come back at 5:22 CET time. Thank you. I appreciate if our AB members can just keep online, just mute, and I will see you in 15 minutes. Thank you. Hello. Hello. It's 1:55 CET time already. So I'm wondering if we can resume the meeting now. Thank you. So shall we resume our meeting? And I will open the floor for advisory board members to raise any comments and suggestions if you have with the new version of the document prepared by the secretary. Please raise your hand if you have any comments, additional comments and suggestions. I see Mr. Bangsong Kim from Korea have shared his comments in the chat, so I will just read out so everybody can hear. I have one comment for JAR and one comment for AOP. Regarding para 13 and para 65 of the JAR, I appreciate your revision by including the collaboration with the GCF. With regard to this, as mentioned yesterday, I hope that demonstration can be added beside R&D, research and development, in both para 13 and 65. Regarding para 5 of the AOP, the main role of the CTCN partnership and liaison office includes collaboration with the GCF, and the current phrase of facilitation partnership doesn't seem to clearly indicate this. Therefore, I hope that you can consider inserting, including the GCF after facilitating important partnership. Then the change sentence goes that focuses on facilitation important partnerships, including the GCF, as well as collaborative RD&D. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bangsong. I think your comments is well noted. In the meantime, if advisory board members, if you have any additional comments, please raise your hand. Orly, please, I saw your hand is raised up. Orly, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. So I'd just like to ask a couple of questions. It looks really good. Thank you very much to the Secretariat for all the work in turning this around. My first question would be, I believe I might be misunderstanding something, so I just welcome some clarification on why it is that all the technology assistance is reported under the implementation theme. I must be not understanding something correctly, so I just want to know, because it seems like by reporting it all under the implementation theme, it makes it appear that the technical assistance isn't relevant to the capacity building and enabling environments theme. So I would just like an explanation on that. Secondly, I noticed around paragraph 30, I had asked why the subtitle includes endogenous, yet there's nothing really about endogenous in that section, unless all the endogenous capacity is related to gender, which if that's the case, just let me know. Around paragraph 35, I see that you agree that there should be more, it's more than just about getting private sector together to have discussions, and that we should, you mentioned here that you would create a marker mechanism. I'm not sure what that means. So I'm just wondering if there couldn't be a few words here about how the work of the CTCN does help create stable policies that are attractive to the private sector. And finally, in collaboration and engagement, I just want to know if there was nothing worth mentioning about collaboration and engagement with MDBs and other financial institutions that are not the finance mechanism. Thank you.
Thank you, Orly. I also, since you have just request some clarification from the secretary, I would now invite the secretary to provide some further information regarding the questions and comments raised by Orly. Rose, are you there?
This is Karina. Yeah. Sorry, maybe I can just come in on one point, which was on paragraph 30, the inclusion of endogenous. And I see there that we had originally included that that word because it tracks with the technology framework. But I agree, it should that should be removed from this, and then in subsequent years, hopefully we'll have more to report on that area. So that's one that I was working on that I will be happy to remove. And thanks for clarifying that, Orly.
Okay. I actually remember Orly raising the issue of why our TA reporting is all under implementation and not spread out. So the reason why we've reported the activities the way we've reported them under the different components is because of the technology framework. So when it describes the activities we should report on under implementation, it includes technical assistance. But in fact, you're right that our technical assistance now integrates capacity building and the other components, including gender. But for purposes of reporting, this is how the technology framework is structured. It directs us what activities we can report under implementation, innovation, and the different 5 themes of the technology framework. So we could include a note to indicate that even though this is where we are required to report on technical assistance in the technology framework, but that indeed it does cover capacity building and the other components. I don't know if that would cover that, Orly.
I think that would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know we did include the text on the MDBs. I can still remember. We must have just lost it. I know we have that text. If it's not there, we'll include it, but that I remember very well. We have the text on the MDB in the paragraph 35. I don't know where it is. So we'll just cross-check and make sure we've inserted that again. But we do have the text on the MDBs based on the explanation we gave you yesterday. So the text we put includes our collaboration with the EBRD, the Islamic Development Bank, that is also going to enable us to create greater synergy with the new, what is it called? The new Regional Collaboration Center of the UNFCCC for that region. So Orly, I'll just look up that text again and make sure it's there. We do have it because you raised it yesterday. We wrote it down.
Perfect. Yeah. And just the last thing was in terms of enhancing collaboration. Oh, sorry, I've lost where I am. Fostering private sector involvement in climate technologies. Was there anything else you were able to say besides the technology clinics in terms of how the work that you do essentially does help encourage private sector investment? Or is it too early? Like, is it just not the right place to say that?
I think we just don't have anything additional to report. And this corresponds also, if you remember yesterday when I was sharing with you the initial results of the survey we did with the NDEs, where they required us to do more work there. So that is the only concrete activity we can report to you. So it's really simply a question of what we are actually doing right now, but indicating the fact that we clearly need to be doing more.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Rose, for providing the additional information and clarifications, and also thanks to Orly for these additional suggestions and comments. I see hands raised by Meropi. Please, Meropi, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I reviewed only the track change version of the jar, and I have some concrete suggestions to do, editorial mostly. In para 2, let me go. Of the track change version, I would suggest, it reads right now, the AOPS activities are designed to accelerate the development and transfer of climate technologies. I would say are designed to accelerate the collaboration for the development and transfer or deployment of climate technologies. I think that if we add the word collaboration to accelerate the collaboration, it captures more what actually the TAs and the capacity building is doing. It is accelerates collaboration instead of the development or transfer. The para 3.
So Meropi, the document you are referring to is the AOP document, right? It's not the.
No, the jar. It is the jar.
You said the para 2. The para 2. What you just mentioned, it seems from the AOP.
Ah, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, just. So can we focus in one document after another?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So can we focusing on the jar and then we go to AOP?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Meropi. Thank you for your indulgence. I see from the chat, Matthew Kennedy would request the floor. Matthew, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ping. My comments relate to the AOP. So just based on your guidance there, I'm willing to wait off and hold off until you come to that document.
Okay. Thank you, Matthew. And also the one question to the Secretariat, the Vice Chair of the TAC, Mr. Stefan Minas, is saying in the chat, the 2 version of the AOP document seems not identical. So would someone from the Secretariat to give some clarification on that?
Thank you, Ping. So we have 2 documents for the JAR and 2 documents for the AOP. The first is the original document we sent out to the members with all the track changes and the recommendations. And then the second is the clean edit. So they will be different because the original has language that we've now removed and content we've modified, but it also indicates the comments from the members. So yeah, we just wanted you to see where we've made the changes, or as you explained in the beginning, where we've retained the changes because of the explanation you gave. So yes, there are two documents and they are not necessarily the same in some sections.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rose, for the clarification. So we're still focusing on the JAR, the Joint Annual Report of CTCN Section to COP. If you have any additional comments, please raise your hand.
Information about what
I see no raised hand. So that means we agree in principle the revised version of the CTCN report to the COP, the JAR, and of course, based on the condition, the CTCN Secretariat will further refine the document based on the comments just made by Orly and some other colleagues. And with that being said, we will move to the approval of the AOP. So Meropi, the floor is yours for your comments and suggestions regarding the revised AOP document.
Pina, I went through the title of the document I was in, and it was the proposal for the operating plan for 2021.
Thank you. Please, we are now.
Shall I continue then?
Yes, please.
Okay. I mean, I was in para 2. I am in the track changes document. I suggested a small editorial in para 2 that it says the AOPS activities are designed to accelerate the development and transfer of climate technologies. I would put the AOPS activities are designed to accelerate the collaboration for the development and transfer. For me, the word transfer is not adequate in this context. Maybe the deployment of climate technologies is better, but this is up to you. But I will put to accelerate the collaboration for the development and transfer, or for the development and deployment. In para 3, I would the transfer emphasis placed on including the of transformative green technologies. I'm glad to see this. I'm glad to see the wording transformative green technologies along the entire cycle, technology cycle. And I would like to ask whether I saw somewhere else in the document, you have come across with the a system, a software, mostly it should be an e-tool that can assess a technology, how green it is, the technology, and how transformative it is along the entire technology cycle. I would like a little bit of knowledge sharing about such kind of e-tools for such assessments among the members of the group. Now, in paragraph 5, it says, second sentence, it says that focuses on facilitating important partnerships as well as collaborative RDT and so on. I will put that focuses on facilitating important partnerships for collaborative R&D. And in one of these paragraphs, I will end the phrase that I offered in one moment. I can suggest in which para. Could be, I don't see this para that was para 4 before. Anyway, I will suggest to include a phrase, a clarification that financing the actual collaborative research and necessary infrastructure is out of the focus of these activities. And with this, I am finished.
Okay, thank you, Meropi. Thank you for your comments and suggestion in the editing of some of the wording. And next, I will invite Matthew. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Firstly, to say congratulations to Rose and her team. The document has improved significantly, and you can even hear, based on the comments, a lot of them are relatively minor around particular words. So well done, and also well done, Ping, to yourself and Moa. It's difficult to chair a CTCN meeting when we're all in the same room. Never mind when everyone is on a different screen and you're getting feedback through email and chat and directly through comments. So well done. You're both doing a very good job as chairs. Coming to the AOP, I have to follow up just a couple of comments, really nothing hugely significant. In terms of paragraph 5, this is a really interesting and important initiative, especially with the new CTCN office in Songdo. What I think might be helpful here, and may not necessarily be here, but maybe later in the text, if there is a deliverable associated with some of these actions. And what I mean, if this is about partnership, maybe there's a dialogue required, or a workshop, or maybe something to stimulate more collaboration around these core areas. I think that would enable maybe this part of the program to be more measurable. I can see later in the document there are references to, of course, these types of workshops, but one specific to this type of work may be very helpful. The next comment I have relates to paragraph 13 in terms of adaptation, and this is a general point around adaptation. I just had a quick look through the document, the revised version, and when we talk about adaptation, even picking up on something that Juliet said this morning at the start of the meeting, when she referred to nature-based solutions and biodiversity, it might be interesting to include this type of terminology within the AOP, that when we do look at adaptation and adaptive environments, that you may wish to consider it isn't just all about hardware in terms of technology, in terms of mitigation, but there are also technologies from an adaptation perspective that involve maybe utilizing nature-based solutions. So 13 may not be the right paragraph to put it into, but I note the term nature-based solutions isn't included. My final point relates to 17, and then this is just, I suppose maybe it's around the language, but I get this point, the point of this paragraph, and I think it's hugely important in terms of trialing, demonstrating market mechanisms and new business models. And the example here is what I maybe would look to slightly amend. So the idea of establishing a market-based mechanism is totally acceptable, and introducing the concepts. It's really just, I think the language here is about feasibility or trialing or demonstrating. So this a mechanism that can look to deploy and demonstrate new initiatives. I give the example that you cited as net metering. Now there's a lot of different actors involved, especially around the grid in terms of demonstrating of metering. So you might just, maybe this is again linked to the R&D component, trialing the feasibility, piloting new business models around these types of technologies. So I'll pause there, but well done on the document. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for all your comments. I think they are very good and very to the point. And I think the Secretary will further consider all these comments and to including this into a refined version. In the meantime, I also see in the chat, Orly also echo the comment made by Meropi, prefer deployment rather than transfer. And I also see Stefan wants to make an intervention. Please, Stefan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ping, and I apologize for bringing colleagues back to this point, but I have noticed that some colleagues are referring to the track changed version and some colleagues are referring to the clean copy in their interventions. And given that there are substantive differences in the texts of these two versions, I just think it would be very helpful if we were working off a one version of the AOP, and I seek your guidance on that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. We worked on the version with track change, with the tracking changed version. I hope that workable for everyone. Thank you. So any other comments or suggestions regarding the revised AOP document? Orly, please.
Actually, sorry, Ping, I just need another minute, please.
Okay, it's fine. In the meantime, if the Secretary would like to provide any information or comments, please feel free to do so.
Just to confirm that we are making the changes as you're recommending them. So as the chair said, we are looking to the copy with the changes and listening to them as you make them, so that at the end of the meeting we are able to produce the clean copy immediately. So a lot of them are recommendations which we think are good, so we are just integrating them. So just to confirm the point that Meropi made and Orly seconded, the language, the inclusion, and also to confirm the changes that Matthew has recommended, and maybe just to add a little bit, and also to confirm the comment that I think, let me scroll up just a little bit. The point that was made by Bong Soo Kim, that yes, we've included that edit as well. So yes, Matthew, we would be happy to provide a little bit more detail in terms of deliverables for the partnership under paragraph 5. We just thought it might be a bit too much, but we do have that because for this level of agreement to be signed on our behalf by UNEP with the government of Korea, we had to develop a relatively detailed program document for 5 years, and we have a good indicator of what these deliverables would be, that we would be happy to share. So again, to acknowledge that, yes, we've noted that.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you for all this clarification and further information. And any other comments from the AB members? Yeah, Orly, please let me know. Okay, Orly, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. So I'd like to make a comment around para 21 and 23. I believe that the use of the word barriers is out of scope for this section on enabling environments and capacity building. I support the use of the word bottlenecks and challenges. So what I would suggest is removing the word barriers in paragraph 21, and in paragraph 23, replacing the word barriers with challenges. Those would be my suggestions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Orly. Any other comments? I also see the comments from Meropi in the chat. I share the remarks of Matthew reference to green infrastructure ecosystems-based adaptation technologies as a reminder that such technologies aren't only green, but building back with nature is definitely building better back. Thank you, Meropi. Your comment is well noted. If there's any additional comments and suggestions, please raise your hand. I see no hand at the moment, so I suggest the advisory board approve in principle the revised AOP document. Based on the condition, the secretary will refine the document further based on the comments and suggestions and editorial changes just suggested by the advisory board members. And with that, I think we will move to our next. Okay, I see a hand from Omidi. Omidi, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you very much, Secretariat. This was a good job done. There are some clarifications that may still be required. For example, when you talk about paragraph 18, opportunities to support South-South, North-South, and triangular cooperation will be identified and promoted for implementation at scale. That has been struck off with the explanation that this is not the mandate of the CTCN, but that of the financing mechanism. Well, we are not telling CTCN to implement at scale whatsoever. If you read between the lines, what we are trying to say is that cooperation will be identified and promoted for implementation at scale, because finally, all this technical assistance ends up in implementation. Not that the CTCN does it, but the CTCN does its part and the rest is done by others as well. So it was just a support or a statement that qualifies what CTCN is doing, not that we are asking CTCN to implement it at all. And I realize a lot of that in a lot of the suggestions that has been made. Yeah. For example, when we are talking about including supporting countries in accessing resources for implementation at scale, this is a mandate of the CTCN, by the way. What is matchmaking all about? And yet you strike this out. Then what shall we talk about when we are talking about matchmaking? I think it's good to revisit some of them and take them from a realistic perspective. We are not negotiating here. We are just being realistic on what we would like to see and what CTCN has already done that can continue. Yesterday, we had a good presentation from the NBE, and we saw how finance can be unlocked or even leveraged through the action of an NDE. What do you interpret that to be if you don't like statements that correspond to it? I think we should be clear, and we should not look at it as, we should not make a barrier for implementation through the work of CTCN. We should actually leverage it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Omidi. Also, thanks to letting us hear the sounds of the rooster. That's get us closer to the nature. And also, I would also echo the point you just mentioned. We need to read between the lines. We are not in a negotiation room. We are working together to enable the CTCN to perform better towards its mandate. So I think everyone in the advisory board knows the resource CTCN has and the mandate CTCN has. So it's never has, I shouldn't say never, just in the range of this AOP covers for next year, it's very difficult for the CTCN to get anything implement at scale. So I support the sentiment just made by Omidi regarding, although it's not the actual activity of the CTCN, but the CTCN can implement the activity with that ambition, with that long-term objective. So if we all read in this background, I think we wouldn't be struggling in just one or the other words, trying to choose between them. So in that sense, I kindly support Omidi on what he just said, and I see another hand raised from Kenichi Wada. Kenichi, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Ping. I just make a very small minor editorial correction. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes. On para 25, it says CTCN indiscriminately accept and respond, blah, blah, blah. But the CTCN has a review process to accept their request. So indiscriminately mean different, have a different meaning. So I just want to strike out just this one word, indiscriminately. So 25 says CTCN accept and respond, blah, 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 blah. Do you understand what I said?
I'm looking on the paragraph 25.
Yes, I have seen it, Kenichi. Yeah.
Okay, please.
I understand. I understand. Thank you. Yeah. Ping, can we please ask Sergio? He has a comment in the
Okay, Sergio, you have.
box, please.
Okay, Sergio, you have the floor.
Okay, sorry, some problems with the mic. No, I just was looking in the wording of the table at page 11, principally the outcome 1 on innovation, the 1A, which says that number of countries developing, transferring and deploying new and the existing climate technologies as a result of CTCN support. I'm wondering whether this could be a good indication of the R&D activities on that for 2 reasons. First, the existing climate technologies, obviously, as they are existing, are not part of R&D mainly. And secondly, also the deploying of new technology perhaps, as Meropi perhaps said before, is quite outside the frame of the activities, because I think that on this particular issue, that is R&D, most activities are related to a sort of pre-competitive action, that is accelerators, or so to say, innovative, that is national innovation system. So perhaps there is an overlapping between what is written here and the general activity of CTCN for implementation. So that is what I can say reading this text. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sergio. Someone from the secretary, could you able to provide some clarification regarding the point just raised by Sergio?
It's very clear now. Thank you, Sergio. We just wanted to make sure we capture what you intended. So you're right, there's need for consistency here with the conversation we had above, when in the beginning the chair described some of the activities that would fall under our mandate when we're talking about what we would cover when it came to innovation and RD&D, so systems of national innovation, incubators and accelerators. So we will change to match that, so that we capture it in that text. We just wanted to make sure we understood what the recommendation you were making. So we'll capture that.
No, you understood perfectly, Rose. That was what I intended.
Thank you. We'll make that change.
Okay, thank you, Rose. I see Kenichi and Omidi, your hands still raised. So I'm wondering. Okay, Omidi, do you still have a point to make? If yes, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much.
Please.
I still have a point to make. Yes. The first point is that just somebody raised this earlier when we are talking of the paragraph. I think it's better to state in which document, because the previous, I think that intervention about indiscriminately sets, according to me, is in paragraph 23, not 25 of the document, if I'm not wrong, or where we have the track changes. And if you accept, I will give an intervention on the same. It's a simple, I know it was stated to be a simple correction, but just to understand it the way I know with the work of the CTCN, is that the CTCN does not reject responses. That is what indiscriminately does mean, because CTCN can still take up a request. I mean, CTCN does not reject requests from developing countries. And they can still connect with other stakeholders if it is not relevant to CTCN. And that is a very useful thing that CTCN does in coordination with the other institutions. And we've seen requests across, even when we are analyzing, and we've seen some are pertaining to real technology, others to policy and the rest. And that's why the word indiscriminately makes CTCN work also have more value to developing countries that may not even distinguish. They only will present their need, and the CTCN can further synthesize and analyze or assess and see how best to assist them. That's a complementary thing CTCN has been doing, that if we want to remove it, it's okay, but it will not add value to the CTCN work, in my view, and from a very humble perspective. What I know is that by encouraging all sorts of requests, the CTCN has been able to assist also other bodies to come up with certain policies. I remember when I was in the tech and we were working with the adaptation committee, that's when we realized that adaptation-related technologies were not as profound and needed to be even stimulated out. And I think that it has been very useful that people have made use of what came out of that. So we may choose to remove the word indiscriminately, but I must commend CTCN for accepting all sorts of requests from developing countries. That is one point. Another point I just wanted to make is that let me get the assurance first that we are working on the same document, the one with track changes.
Yes. Yes.
Para 24. Para 24. Thank you very much, Ping, for also reinforcing the point that we should read between the lines and understand the statement and not just knock it out on the basis of the wording or the narrative or the fact that it has something to do with implementation. It makes a lot of sense to also look at the end of the tunnel to see how CTCN will do whatever it's doing to get to that ultimate end. And that's why the bullet, the last bullet proposed in para 24, which was 19 earlier before, promote response to all relevant requests for TA that present challenges to developing countries, is a qualifier to the indiscriminate statement that we have just discussed, because all sorts of requests will come, and then response may come in that the CTCN refers that to a relevant place, if it has to do with capacity, if it has to do with finance, and that has happened before. So I still see value in that, and should be included. I don't know. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Omiri. Thank you for making yourself very clear regarding the indiscriminately. Although both you and me are not native speaker of English, but and also thank you for your flexibility of accepting the deletion of these words if the AB choose to do so. And I now invite colleagues, the AB board members, to raise additional comments and suggestions, if there's any. If not, I will repeat again. We will, based on a further refinement by the CTCN Secretariat of this document, then we will have a agreement on approval of this document. And with that being said, we move to next agenda item of our session, which is the administrative matters. Moa, the floor is yours. Moa?
Thank you very much, Ping. Let me see now where we are in the agenda. Yes, so the last item on the agenda today is the selection of a date and venue for the next advisory board meeting. So given the evolution of the COVID-19 pandemic and the global travel restrictions, which are likely to stretch into next year, it's difficult to envision an in-person meeting. So we plan to organize the next advisory board meeting in April next year and suggest maintaining this momentum by organizing a virtual meeting also at that time. So with that, I would like to open the floor for AB members. If you have views on the date and venue of the next AB meeting. Thank you. Seeing no hands raised at this point, we take this as an agreement to have the next AB meeting in April next year and to aim for a virtual meeting. So thank you very much for that, and back to you, Ping.
Thank you, Ma. You are so efficient at chairing, much efficient than I do. Thank you, thank you. So the next on the agenda item is AOB, ironing other business. And it's good we now have time for any other business. I received a note earlier. I see a hand raised by Omidi. Omidi, please, the floor is yours. I'm not sure you have comments regarding the previous agenda item or any other business. Please just indicate. Omidi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ping and Moa, for taking us through these agenda items in such a fine way. And thank you to AB members as well. I'm happy that we are coming to this point in time. What we should remember, though, of course, is that we did not conclusively look at or even look at the final documents. We trust that the secretariat will adjust them accordingly. And from my side, I would say that the approval is provisional. It does not stop anything from going on. And I think that that is still in order, because we have not even stated whether This is an official meeting, really. We are in our 15th AB. We stated clearly that the meeting was unofficial, but we can proceed on with the proceedings of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Amiri. Thank you for reminding all of us the difficulties, the difficult time we are facing now, and also the difficulties we are facing by some of the advisory board members who have very limited internet connection, and it's very difficult for them to maintain online all the time. They probably appears online, but they are actually not able to speak. So I acknowledge the sentiment you just mentioned, and I hope we can find some proper wording in the minutes of this meeting to give some I'm not saying flexibility, but if later on some AB members they think they have the rights to request review of some of the document, I think they have the right to do so. And with that being said, I also trust the secretary to come up with the right wording to phrase this properly. And also I see a raised hand by Kathy Yitong Lee. So it's, you are requesting floor for the any other business, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just in a second. I received some message that you're from Yango, right?
Yes.
The Yango have requested the floor to speak at the AB. So the floor is yours, Miss Cassie Lee.
Thanks. Good morning, afternoon, or evening to the Chair Ping, Vice Chair Moa, and members of the Advisory Board. I'm Kathy Yitong Lee, Yango representative of the meeting, and I'm making this intervention on behalf of UNFCCC's Youth Constituency, Yango, the Women and Gender Constituency, WGC, and the Indigenous Peoples Organizations, IPO. We are honored to attend CTCN's Advisory Board meeting, and thank you all for giving the opportunity for us to raise our voice and to express our views regarding the collaboration and participation we have with the CTCN, which started a few years ago. During the last year, we in Yango have organized an event at the COP25 together with the CTCN and multiple webinars throughout the year. We have also developed a junior consultant position at the CTCN, which will open up soon. The WGC has also engaged through several ways too, among others through the Gender Just Climate Solutions. We're very thankful for this collaboration for us to contribute with our knowledge and experience to the development and transfer of climate technologies. Furthermore, on behalf of Yango, WGC, and IPO, we would like to thank you for considering the point of view we already expressed and have a seat on CTCN's advisory board, and to include this into the agenda of COP26. It is important for us to express once again what this seat represents to us and why we are advocating for it. To begin with, more official participation of the three constituencies in the CTCN Advisory Board would fully support the implementation of the new technology framework. Indeed, according to the principle of the technology framework adopted in 2018, this framework should, among others, be designed and implemented in a manner that facilitates the active participation of all relevant stakeholders. Young people, IPO, and women relevant stakeholders.
When we consider that young people are the majority of the population in the global South, indigenous people are the most relevant inhabitants to think about the endogenous technologies needed in their environment. And women, those inclusion in the decision-making process, have already been successful many times. For example, the IPCC. The main 5 focus areas of this technology framework are innovation, implementation, enabling environment and capacity building, collaboration, and stakeholder engagement and support. We would like to underline the absolute necessity to completely have young people, indigenous people, and women embracing all the processes of the technology mechanism if we want to have a successful implementation of the technology framework. First, innovation and implementation should be undertaken in a manner that enhances the effective participation of developing country parties, fosters sustainable development, and ensures gender responsiveness. These goals may only be achieved with the active collaboration of women, indigenous people, and young people. Additionally, the section on enabling environment and capacity building explicitly explains that it should facilitate countries in enhancing and enabling environment to promote endogenous and gender-responsive technologies for mitigation and adaptation actions. In the same line, collaboration and stakeholder engagement should enhance interaction between those involved in the development and transfer of climate technology, help share knowledge and mobilize support. Young people and indigenous people play key roles here. How could we have transferred and shared knowledge without us? Finally, regarding the focus area of support, the understanding of support under this key theme is broader than just financial support, and it may include all aspects of support for the implementation of Article 10 of the Paris Agreement. The support should be provided for all key themes of the technology framework, taking into account the gender perspective and endogenous and indigenous aspects. Therefore, we would like to express once again our view for constituencies to have a seat each on the CTCN Advisory Board for all these initiatives to be successfully achieved. To conclude, we would like to thank you all again for giving us the opportunity to raise our point of view and this important request. And we're looking forward to receive feedback from the advisory board members on our request after the meeting, so we can further understand your point of views too. Additionally, we would like to ask the chair and vice chair if they have already started discussions with the COP26 presidency and the UNFCCC secretariat to put this point on the agenda and to include this in CTCN's report to the COP26, or in another way, see how to address the review of the board composition. Last but not the least, we would like to thank the CTCN Secretariat for their efforts despite the challenges we face through this new virtual format, and to members of Youngo, WGC, and IPO for their contribution to this intervention. And thank you all again on behalf of Youngo, WGC, and IPO.
Okay. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you for your speak representing Youngo WGC, and we will reflect your comments in the meeting minutes, and we will also reflect it in the CTCN report to the COP. Yes, as you just requested, the AB has its own mandate, and I think the composition of the advisory board is not subject to the discussion and authority of the AB itself. It's a agenda item in the COP, so we will reflect the comments in the CTCN report to the COP. And,
thank you.
Okay, and I also see a raised hand from Spencer.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Ping, and good day to everyone. I just wanted to go back to the very important point raised by Omadi earlier on with respect to AB 15 and the nature of AB 15 and maybe even AB 16. I think it's a very important topic here to discuss. I understand there was a label that was placed on AB 15, but we have made some very key decisions in AB 15. So I think we need to discuss this. Of course, we can revisit decisions, but I believe it might be better to look at making new decisions rather than revisiting a decision and trying to change a decision that have already been made. But it is important that we ventilate very carefully what does that mean on the nature of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. And as just mentioned by Spencer and Omidi, I think it's a important question, and also it's decided the legal status of what we approved, what we agreed in this meeting. But I feel grateful to all your contribution and constructive comments made in the past 3 days, and also the efforts made by the CTCN Secretary, tireless efforts around the clock to revise the document, to trying to incorporate every comments and suggestion made by advisory board members. So as I just mentioned, I would really want us here to reach agreement in the document we just discussed, the AOP, which serve as the foundation for the implementation of its efforts for next year by the CTCN, and also the CTCN report to the COP as mandated to be submitted later this year. So I sincerely plead to every advisory board member, we can reach agreement on the two documents based on the condition that the CTCN Secretary will further refine the document, incorporating the additional comments and suggestions made in our meeting today. And I trust, I believe all of you will trust the CTCN Secretary will make sure all the comments and suggestions will be reflected in a final version of the agreed document. So in that, as I just plea to the advisory board member and also request the CTCN Secretary to come up with some language reflecting the reality we are facing for this AB 16, and give the chance to every advisory board members to revisit the document as necessary even after the document is submitted to the COP.
Ping, if I may come in, this is Karina.
Please, Karina.
I would just like to confirm that the Secretariat is committed to sending out the revised versions of both the documents we discussed today by close of business today, so that members can look through them again.
So in any other business, I think here I would like to make some acknowledgement. The CTCN has recently engaged in new partnership with funding prospects for the coming years. These include a contribution of 500,000 euros, €500,000 from the Republic of Austria for technical assistance activities over the next 2 years, focusing on LDCs and land use activities. This contribution is pending a final signature from the government of Austria. A contribution of 463,700 $636 from the Ministry of Environment of Japan for mitigation activities until 2024. And finally, we are pleased to announce CTCN's collaboration with Islamic Development Bank. This collaboration is embedded as part of UNEP's renewal of its global partnership with the bank. The collaboration will build on the bank's service linkage mechanism and the CTCN's pro bono approach on several technical assistance interventions, which will be jointly implemented, as well as common efforts on programmatic approaches and resource mobilization. This collaboration will also promote synergies with the UNFCCC Regional Collaboration Center for the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia. Now I would like to call upon any AB members who have anything would like to speak at this AOB session. Spencer, are you okay? Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Ping, and for this information which you just indicated on the AOB. I think it's a very significant development, and I guess the appropriate words will be included in the minutes with respect to the receipt of that information.
Yes, thank you, Spencer. I think definitely we will include it in the minutes of the meeting. Oh, I see Ambrosio raised a question in the chat. I will read. I would like to ask the AB members and CTCN their opinion on this matter, reviewing the action D3, among others, of the enhanced gender action plan approved on COP25, and also the principles of the technology framework. There seems to be a basis for this. I think I firstly will invite the CTCN secretary. We have a gender focal point in the secretary to give some information regarding this.
Thank you, Peng. Karina here. So Ambrosio, I'm not sure that I understood fully what you were asking, but I can perhaps allow you to briefly restate your question so that we can make sure that we answer it appropriately. If you just wait one moment. So Ambrosio, I've now promoted you to panelist so you can speak. If you could perhaps just explain the question for me.
Ambrosio, can you speak? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm sorry, now I don't see him among the panelists. Let me try to see if I can email him unless he joins back in a moment here so that I can respond to his request.
Okay. For the sake of time, Ambrosio, if you are still listening. Okay, I see one. Ambrosio, if you are still listening, please get in touch with Karina Larson from the CTCN Secretary. She is the gender focal point in CTCN. So she will be able to answer your question. And for the sake of time, we move to the next session of our agenda item, which is closure of AB 16 meeting. And I will firstly invite my co-chair. Hello?
Hello. Oh, yes.
Ambrosio, it's good to hear your voice. We can hear you, please.
Thank you very much.
Please.
I will try to be very brief. I was referring to what Yongo expressed. If the AV members or the CTCN have an opinion regarding including these constituencies of members of the advisory board.
Sorry, so it was a question about whether we have opinion on Yongo serving on the advisory board. Is that correct?
Yes, about, I think Yongo was asking about Yongo, the women's constituency and the indigenous people constituency. So yes, I'm asking the AB members and CTCN to share some thoughts regarding what they're expressed. I reviewed the enhanced gender action plan and the principle of the technology framework, and there seems to be some form of basis for that question, so it seems relevant. And just wanted to see if you have some thoughts on it.
So I can answer on behalf of the Secretariat. So we are very pleased to engage with these constituencies and indeed have ongoing work with them. But as the Secretariat, we take our guidance from the COP, and so we are not in a position to make decisions on the membership. And so what I can offer from our side is that we will indeed include this request in the CTCN report to the COP in the text, so that it can be conveyed further. And Ping, I'm not sure if you would like to make comments, but essentially the decision itself lies with the COP. So in general, we're very happy for collaboration of any kind.
Thank you, Karina, and thank you, Ambrosio, for the question.
May I make a comment, please, Ping?
Oh, please, Rose.
Wana, do you want to make a comment? Wana from the UNFCCC Secretariat.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wana, please.
Oh, we would have to upgrade her. So she's just kindly let me know, if you would please allow me to say thank you very much, Wana. We get guidance from them on COP processes and the Secretariat work. So she's just let us know that the constitution of the AB will be considered at COP26, and therefore matters relating to the request that has been made by Yongo will be considered at that point. That's what I wanted to bring to your attention, Chair. And Wana, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rose. I just want to see, although I'm now chairing the AB, I can only speak on this issue on behalf of myself. And I think both Rose, Wana, and also Karina already provided very useful information, is that we will include this request in our meeting minutes and also the CTCN report to the COP. I think the COP will decide on the composition of the AB. And from my personal view, as CTCN is very actively engaged in collaboration with Yango and also engage with activities trying to encourage the youth to innovate, to for the climate technology and its transfer. So I would like to welcome more collaboration with Yango and also have more exchange of views and comments in all these related areas. I see Wana is on the line, so Wana, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Ping, the chair. As Ross just mentioned, and this issue already been, I think the constituency already submitted the letter to the presidency and also to the SB chair. So the presidency are well aware of this coming request or interest from the constituency and the consideration of this constitution of AB to be discussed, as we said, at COP26 in Glasgow. And we are already aware that the presiding officer aware of this interest from this group and also from other groups. This one issue I can tell you, when we constitute the AB at COP18 in Doha, this is one of the last sticking point in the debate. Because when we open, then many people are interested to come in. So this will be a very, very so I hope that this kind of issue in the lead up to Glasgow, there will be some consultation, and then so that we don't spend a lot of time in Glasgow to discuss this issue, and we hope that we can settle this issue before we go. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Wana, for providing additional information from the UNFCCC Secretary's perspective. With all that being said, we coming to the end of our AB meeting, and I would like to invite my co-chair Moa to say something.
Thank you, Ping, and thank you everyone for participating in the 16th Advisory Board meeting and on this call to the very end. Also reminding that we will, if there are additional observer questions and comments which have not been answered, we will get back to these, and this will also be reflected in the minutes of this meeting. So again, from my side, thank you very much, everyone, all AB members and observers, and thank you to the Secretariat, Rose and the team, and thank you very much to you, Ping.
Okay, thank you, Moa. I would, although I have a heartfelt thanks to all of you, I will not just repeat what just been said by Moa. So thank all of you, and I think this is the end of our AB 16, and I will see you at our next task force meeting. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
Moa.
much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Goodbye and thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye,
Juliet. Bye.
Juliet. Nice to see you again.
Likewise.
Okay, thank you so much, Moa.